At Thanksgiving dinner, just as I reached for the mashed potatoes, my sister Natalie stood up and said, "We voted, and you're not family anymore." Laughter echoed around the table as if I were the punchline to some long-running joke. But instead of crying or begging, I smiled, pulled a folder from my bag, and placed it right in the center of the table. What happened next silenced an entire room of people who thought they knew everything about me until I showed them the truth. You want to know what was in that folder? Sit tight. This story is just getting started. Thanksgiving was always tense in our family, but that year, the tension had a sharp edge to it. I could feel it in the way people avoided eye contact, how conversations died when I entered the room. My name is Daniel Rivers, and for years, I was the dependable one, the quiet brother, the responsible son, the fixer of everyone's mess. But that day, as my sister stood and raised her wine glass, I realized I was no longer even that. Before we carved the turkey, Jessica said, flashing her practiced smile, "There's something we need to say." The room went still, forks suspended, mouths half open. I already knew what was coming, not because I'm psychic, but because I know Jessica. She only smiles like that when she's about to ruin someone's day. "We took a vote," she said, pausing for dramatic effect, "and we've decided you're not family anymore." There was silence for a beat, and then the clapping started. My cousin Rachel cheered like we were at a Broadway show. Uncle Marty raised his glass, and even my own mother laughed. "Well, someone had to say it," she added, reaching casually for the cranberry sauce. I didn't speak right away. I sat there frozen, staring at my plate while the blood roared in my ears. My father didn't even look at me, just sipped his beer and muttered, "Probably for the best." That was when something inside me broke. I stood up slowly, letting my chair scrape back across the hardwood. "Wow," I said, voice steady, "you guys actually rehearsed this." Jessica beamed like she'd won a trophy. "You've been toxic for years, Daniel. We're just finally done pretending." Toxic, my mom repeated, like she was trying the word on for size. "You never understood what real family means. Always off on your own, no kids, no wife, always judging." My dad chimed in with, "It's unanimous, son." I nodded slowly, lips pressed tight. "Good," I said, pulling a thick folder from my bag. "Then I guess you won't be needing this." I placed it gently in the center of the table with a thud that silenced the laughter. Jessica's eyes narrowed as she reached for it, peeling back the cover with the smugness of someone expecting a joke. But when she flipped the first page, her smirk vanished. Her face went white as her eyes darted across the contents. "What is this?" she whispered. I leaned back in my chair, folding my arms. "Why don't you read it out loud?" Her hand shook as she turned another page, then another. Then came the scream, a high, horror movie kind of scream that made the chandelier rattle. She shoved the folder away like it had bitten her. Joel, her husband, grabbed it next, flipping through the pages, his face growing paler with each line. "Is this real?" he asked, not looking at me. I nodded once. Every word, every receipt, every screenshot. The room fell deathly quiet. Even the clink of cutlery stopped. My mother's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. I stood up slowly, keeping my voice calm. "You were so sure I'd stay quiet," I said. "So sure I'd keep being the family ATM, the doormat, the ghost you called when you needed a bailout." I looked Jessica straight in the eye. "But you forgot quiet doesn't mean weak." Let me back up for a second. Because Jessica didn't wake up one day and decide I wasn't family. That decision was built over years, layered with insults, ungratefulness, and taking me for granted until they believed I didn't matter. And I let them believe it. I was the one who moved out at 19, paid my way through college, worked 2 jobs, never asked for help. Jessica dropped out of 2 majors, found herself in Bali, came home and married Joel, the kind of guy who looks like a LinkedIn profile in Caucus. They couldn't afford the wedding, so I chipped in half. I didn't complain, not even when my parents booked a cruise right after, using money they swore they didn't have. I paid for my dad's dental work. I covered 3 months of Jessica's rent when Joel lost his job. I helped my mom with her heating bill. I even paid part of my cousin Rachel's tuition when her scholarship fell through. But every time it wasn't gratitude I got, it was entitlement. Backhanded comments at dinner like, "Must be nice, no kids to worry about." Or, "Of course you have good wine, you live alone." Their tone always said it louder than their words. I was less than them because I didn't have a family of my own. Eventually, I stopped being a brother and became a wallet. The one they called when life got hard, the one who always picked up, who always helped, until the day I didn't. That was 3 months ago when Jessica asked me to co-sign a business loan for a wellness cafe. When I said no, the silence came fast. My mother stopped calling. Jessica blocked me. My father only sent one-word replies. No one invited me to the last family dinner. But I didn't wallow, I documented. Every dollar I'd sent them over the past 5 years, $78,000 in total. I had records. I had proof. And now on this Thanksgiving night I had receipts. That's what Jessica had just seen. Every transfer confirmation, every text begging for help, every joke at my expense, every cruel comment from their private group chat that they didn't know I could see. Joel's face was blank as he read a line item, $4,200 used at hotel in Santa Monica under Jessica's card, accompanied by Alyssa M. His voice cracked. What is this? Jessica didn't answer. She didn't have to. Because I wasn't done yet. I turned to the rest of them, to the people who had laughed as they voted me out. You think this makes me vindictive? Petty? No. This makes me finally done. I took a deep breath and added, and you're not ready for what comes next. Because the folder? That was just the beginning. Nobody moved. Jessica was still standing, white-knuckled and trembling, Joel staring at the folder like it held a bomb. My mom looked like she wanted to faint, and my dad suddenly found his beer bottle very interesting. The silence that followed wasn't awkward, it was radioactive. I kept records, I said, voice calm, even gentle. Because someone had to. Because every time you forgot what I did for you, I didn't. You never remembered, so I made sure someone did. Jessica's voice finally broke the silence, a half hiss, half whimper. You're a monster. Her fingers curled like claws. You're twisted. Keeping tabs on your own family like we're enemies. You voted me out, I replied, cool and quiet. What part of that says family to you? She opened her mouth again, but Joel cut her off. What's this about Santa Monica? He asked, flipping another page. Who's Elisa? Jessica's head whipped toward him. Don't start, she spat, her voice desperate. Don't start. Joel laughed, hollow and cold. You spent 3 nights at a hotel on my card with someone named Alyssa, and I'm supposed to what, ignore it? Jessica's silence told the truth her mouth wouldn't. And that's when things started cracking. My mom leaned forward, voice shaky. Can we all just take a breath? Be reasonable. I looked straight at her, calm as ever. Sure. Let's talk about the time you called me a parasite while cashing the check I sent you. Her mouth opened, eyes wide. That's not fair. We were under stress. No, I interrupted, my voice sharp now. You were under stress. I bailed you out. Every single time. And the one time I say no, I'm suddenly not family. My father finally spoke, barely above a murmur. You're making this bigger than it is. I turned to him, eyes locked. You let them do this to me for years. You watched it happen and said nothing. You heard it, you saw it. And you chose silence every time. The room was still again. Jessica slammed her hand on the table. You're just bitter because no one needs you anymore. I stepped forward. Wrong. I'm not bitter, I'm free. She laughed, bitter and loud. Bringing the folder, printing receipts, do you even hear how pathetic that is? I didn't flinch. And you only cared when I was paying your bills. At least I came prepared. You don't get to play the victim, she said, voice shaking. You chose to help. I nodded. Exactly. I chose. But then you stopped seeing it as a choice, you started seeing it as a duty. And when I stopped, you decided I was the problem. My voice cracked, not with sadness but rage. You didn't want a brother. You wanted a bank account with legs. Joel stood up now, still holding the folder. Jessica, he said quietly, is this all true? She stared at him, and for once she had no script, no tears, no deflection, just silence. Joel looked down at the folder again, flipping a few more pages. You lied to me, he said. About the hotel, the money, about Daniel. You told me he was unstable, manipulative, but he was just keeping receipts. Jessica's voice rose into a screech. I had to. He was turning everyone against me. I stared at her. No, Jessica. You did that all by yourself. Then my mom tried again, her voice low, syrupy. Listen, honey. We overreacted, sure. But this is still family. Families fight. Let's just move on. I looked her dead in the eyes. You're not hearing me. I'm not asking for peace. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm telling you I'm done. Jessica sneered. Oh, stop pretending this is some dramatic mic drop. You've said that before. I pulled another envelope from my coat pocket. Not like this. My dad sighed, exhausted. What now? I tossed it on the table. Joel caught it before it slid off the edge, opened it, and read the top line. His eyes widened. Power of attorney revoked, emergency contact removed. Daniel, I've already signed the papers, I said. I am legally and emotionally no longer responsible for any of you. My mother gasped. You're cutting ties completely. Completely, I said. Starting now. She shook her head, stunned. You're being selfish, I turned to her. No, I'm being healthy. I spent years holding this family together with guilt and money and silence. I'm done. Jessica's chair screeched as she pushed it back. Do you know how this looks? How dramatic it is? You brought a folder to Thanksgiving like you're on trial. No, I said. You put me on trial. I just showed the jury the evidence. I slipped my coat on slowly, deliberately. And by the way, this isn't revenge. This is accountability. This is closure. Jessica's eyes burned into mine. You'll regret this. I smiled. I already regret how long it took me to do it. Then I turned toward the door. My father called after me. Daniel, wait, let's be reasonable. I paused, not because I was swayed, but because I wanted my final words to land. You only called me family when you needed something, I said. But now, when I say no, I'm toxic. You don't get to rewrite the story. I opened the door and looked back one last time. You had your vote. Now here's mine. I vote I'm done being your scapegoat. I'm done being the quiet one. And I'm done pretending blood means loyalty. Then I walked out, just like that. No fireworks, no shouting. Just the sound of truth landing like a hammer. If you find these stories inspiring and they motivate you to take action, please comment 9. If not, comment 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. The moment I stepped outside, the cold November air slapped me in the face. But it felt more like a cleanse than a chill. I stood on the porch, listening to the muffled chaos still echoing behind the door, and I waited. Waited to feel regret or doubt or even fear. But all I felt was quiet like a blanket, like peace. I didn't go straight home. I drove to the lake I used to visit as a kid. The one Dad took me fishing at before the guilt-tripping and manipulation replaced his quiet smiles. I sat in the car, engine off, headlights dimmed, watching the still water reflect a sky that looked as tired as I felt. I sat there for hours, thinking about nothing and everything. The next morning I expected an avalanche. I was wrong. The first day after Thanksgiving, silence. The second day, still nothing. But by the third, the guilt machine warmed up. Missed call from Mom. A text from Jessica, bitter and sharp, you don't even realize what you've done. Joel's filing for divorce. Are you happy now? Then came Dad, we all said things we regret. But what you did was nuclear. Your mother is a wreck. Come fix this. I stared at the message. Not a single sorry. Not a hint of self-awareness. Just pressure. Just more of the same. I didn't respond. I turned off notifications and went for a walk, breathing in air that didn't come with strings attached. For the first time in a decade, I wasn't someone's emergency contact wallet or emotional punching bag. I was just Daniel. And to my surprise, I slept better than I had in years. No late-night Venmo requests. No calls about emergencies that were really just bad decisions. No guilt disguised as love. Just silence. In the days that followed, I started doing things I'd put off for years. Booked a dental appointment. Finally saw a doctor. Even scheduled time with a therapist, not because I was broken, but because I could finally take care of myself without someone else intercepting my peace. I changed my passwords. Closed the joint accounts. Froze any access they might have had to my finances. Blocked Jessica on every platform. And something wild happened. I didn't miss them. I didn't ache for their approval. I didn't need their fake warmth or hollow apologies. I needed this silence. I needed me. A week later, I got a text from Laura, my cousin, the one who clapped when they voted me out. I didn't know you paid for my tuition. I'm sorry. I followed the crowd. You were always the one who actually helped. I didn't reply, but I read it 3 times. Not for validation, just to remember that the truth was finally coming out. Then, another surprise, Joel messaged me. I filed the papers. Everything in that folder checked out. She cheated. She lied. Not just to you, to me too. You were right, Daniel. I should have left sooner. I stared at the message. I didn't expect gratitude or even closure, but it felt good to know someone finally saw it, really saw it. 3 days later, I did something radical. I applied for a job in another city, not to escape, but because for the first time I could. I didn't have to stay nearby in case someone needed me. I wasn't a backup plan anymore. I started reconnecting with old friends, people I hadn't spoken to in years because family needed me. Some of them had read my post on Reddit. Apparently it went viral in those Reddit family stories threads. They reached out to say, "We're proud of you." No expectations, no guilt, just honest support. One of them asked, "Don't you regret it?" I paused for half a second. I only regret not doing it sooner. Christmas came creeping around the corner, and on December 22nd I got the first real test, a text from my mother. No words, just a photo of their living room stockings hung, a half-decorated tree, and a giant empty space under it where the gifts used to go. The caption read, "It doesn't feel the same without you. Ellie keeps asking why Uncle's not coming this year." No apology, no ownership, just guilt in wrapping paper. December 23rd, Jessica called. I let it ring. Then the text, "I know I messed up, but don't punish everyone. Just come for Ellie. She misses you." 2 minutes later, also, "Mom and Dad are behind on the mortgage. I know you don't care anymore, but the bank called. Thought you'd want to know." And there it was. The ask. Always buried under guilt, always sugar-coated, but the same old playbook. I blocked the number. Again, December 24th. Another text, this time from Dad. "You made your point. We get it. But enough is enough. We need help. We're still your blood." That night I sat by my fireplace sipping wine, no tree, no noise, no chaos, just warmth, just peace. And for the first time in my life, I didn't miss the noise, I didn't miss them. But it wasn't over. January came cold and quiet. I was back at work, back to my new normal therapy, long walks, fresh coffee, silence. It felt strange, but not bad. Like learning to breathe after years of shallow gulps. Then one afternoon, my phone buzzed. A number I didn't recognize. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something made me answer. "Is this Daniel Turner?" a man asked. His voice was formal, businesslike. "Yes, who's calling?" "My name is Mark. I'm calling on behalf of your father." I stiffened. "My father can't reach me directly." He hesitated. He said, "You're the primary executor of the family trust." He wanted to discuss some options. They're in a bit of a financial bind. I nearly laughed. It was almost elegant, how far they'd gone around me just to try and pull me back in. "I revoked my role as executor 2 months ago," I said calmly. "All finalized through the family attorney. My name's off everything." Silence. Then, "I see. I'll let him know." "Please do," I said, and hung up without waiting for more. A week passed. Then it arrived. An envelope. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting instantly, my mother's. Inside were 3 handwritten pages. I sat down before I read them, already bracing for the emotional chess match. The first page was pure nostalgia and guilt. We said things in anger. "You've always been the strong one. We never realized how much we leaned on you. We miss you." The second page turned darker. "Your father's health isn't good. Jessica's completely alone now. We're worried about Ellie. She's struggling." And the third page, that's where the trap was sprung. "We're selling the house. But we're underwater on the mortgage. We just need a little help to get through this. Then we'll never ask again. Please, Daniel, do it for your father. Do it for the family." I stared at the pages, felt every old instinct try to pull me back in. The responsibility, the guilt, the ache to fix it all. But I'd done that for years. I didn't owe them more. I didn't owe them me. I folded the letter, walked to the kitchen, and dropped it in the trash. Because here's the truth, they weren't reaching out to rebuild a relationship. They were reaching out for access, to money, to silence, to control, to the version of me who never said no. But that version, he's gone. And the terrifying part for them is that I'm doing just fine without them. I got the job in Chicago, moved into a sunny apartment with high ceilings and no memories of people who saw me as a paycheck. I started volunteering at a youth center on weekends, not because someone asked, but because I wanted to. No more 11 p.m. calls. No more "can you just" favors. No more birthday parties I paid for but wasn't invited to. No more pretending. Weeks passed. Then months. I still thought about Ellie sometimes. I wondered what story she'd be told, what version of me would be painted. But then I remembered I left the truth on the table, literally. And sometimes that's all you can do. One spring morning I got a message from Joel. We finalized the divorce, he wrote. Thanks again. You gave me the push I needed. It was hell. But I'm free. I replied, just once, glad you're okay. Stay strong. He didn't say anything more. He didn't need to. The last thread came in April. Another letter. Same handwriting. 3 words were still family, no apology, no change, just another hook. But this time I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, not even exhaustion, just peace. I threw it away. Then I made dinner. Because this story, it doesn't end with a reunion or a tearful hug. It ends with me living a life not built on obligation or survival, but on freedom. I used to think being alone meant being unloved. Now I know it means being unburdened. To anyone out there reading this, caught in the cycle of guilt, who's tired of being the family ATM, the emotional dump, the one holding it all together while no one holds you, listen to me. You're allowed to walk away. You're allowed to protect your peace. You're allowed to choose yourself. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing, and just leave. For the longest time, I believed that love meant sacrifice. That being a good son, a good brother, meant saying yes even when it hurt. I told myself that family comes first, that blood is thicker than water, that I had a responsibility to hold everything together because no one else would. But what no one tells you is that sacrifice without respect becomes expected, and love without boundaries turns into control. I spent years giving my time, my money, my energy quietly, constantly, and without question. I thought if I just kept giving, eventually I'd be appreciated. I thought maybe one day they'd see me, not just what I could do for them, but they didn't. They saw a wallet, not a person. A fix-it man, not a family member. The truth is, people will keep taking from you as long as you let them. They'll call it help, and just one more thing, but it chips away at your spirit until there's nothing left for you. And when you finally say no, suddenly you're the problem. You're selfish. You're cold. But saying no is not cruel. Setting boundaries is not betrayal. Sometimes it's the only way to save yourself. Walking away from my family was the hardest thing I've ever done, but it was also the most freeing. I didn't do it out of hate. I did it because I finally understood that love without mutual respect isn't love, it's manipulation. I stopped hoping for apologies that never came. I stopped bleeding for people who never offered a bandage. And in that silence, I found myself again. So if you're listening to this and you've been the one everyone leans on, if they only call when they need something, if you feel invisible until it's time to pay or fix or forgive, hear me now. You are allowed to stop. You are allowed to walk away. You are allowed to build a life where peace is the norm, not the reward. Family is not defined by blood. It's defined by behavior. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is break the cycle. To stop trying to be everything for people who give you nothing in return. To finally say, I choose me, because you are not weak for letting go. You are strong for knowing when it's time. And trust me, when you do, your real life begins.